Hi everybody, how are you? Okay, you've already heard my name is Rubin. If you looked around at all, you probably figured out that I talk a bit about relationships. First of all, I just want everybody to be very comfortable here. I'm going to take my coat off. Hope you don't mind.
Take off your hand.
It's off. The hair's gone. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My family came right from here around the block. I was just driving by with sticking to work on the way here, and I could swear I still saw my grandfather waiting for me down at the bottom of 1802 Ocean Parkway, like he always did whenever we came to see him. So I spent a lot of time here. I'm familiar with the area. I did a lot of growing up here, so I'm really happy to be back. Thank you for having me. I appreciate everybody being here tonight. My background, the short of it, in this area was around 1997. I got involved in digital in the online area. I joined a company called Yo-Yo-Dine, which was founded by a guy named Seth Godin. Seth has become a visionary. He has the most read marketing blog in the world, and he's one of the few people I've ever met who, when I first met him, which now is 15 years ago, he's doing exactly what he told me he hoped he'd be doing with his future. He speaks and he writes and he doesn't answer anybody, because he sold his business to Yahoo back in 1998, when I was a part of that. So I was fortunate to be a part of this whole online world when it was first starting, when e-commerce stores were nothing more than catalogs online, when magazines were just reprinted online. And I've got to grow up with this whole thing. Now you might notice I go back and forth. I tend to pace. I'm not used to being so close to everybody, but it's nice to get to know you. I don't know how many of you guys are very involved in social networking right now, on social platforms like Twitter or Facebook. But what I try to describe to people is that my head is like a Twitter feed. And if you've ever been on Twitter, you know that people's thoughts just keep coming by. It's like it scrolls down. And that's the way my head is. Ideas go into my head. They keep coming through. I don't sleep a lot. I think about this stuff constantly. So if I get off track here, you have two choices. You can let me keep going because you like where I'm going, or you can bring me back. But you'll find that sometimes I'll go off on tangents. So getting back to my presence, I joined Seth back in 1997. At the end of 1998, we were bought by Yahoo, which was a pretty cool thing. We had this startup that had very little money. Some of you guys might be familiar what it's like starting a business. And then all of a sudden, we were bought out by this big parent. And I was fortunate enough to be a part of this, and then to move through a number of companies over the years. And actually, the way I know Raph was that I met Alan Levy, who a lot of you guys might know, when he was a part of this organization, back in 1998. And did a lot of work with him thereon and a lot of these online businesses that he's been involved with. So I grew up in this. I watched everything change. I watched it evolve. And then in around 2007, 2008, you guys might know that something started happening. These platforms were built. And everything we were all doing online really started taking off to a much bigger degree. You know, there was email first, and cell phones and text. And then all of a sudden there were these things where you put out your thoughts to one friend and everybody can see it. And at the time when this really started evolving, I was at a company called Elf Cosmetics, eyeslipsface.com. It's owned by a couple of guys from the community, Joey and Alan Shama. They had built their company on word-of-mouth marketing. They had no traditional marketing budget. They weren't buying ads. They weren't doing the things everybody does, and they had grown their business very successfully. And they had just gotten to a point where it had leveled out for a little while. And I was introduced to them, and I came in as the Chief Marketing Officer. And you might say, why would you join a company as a Chief Marketing Officer if there's no budget for marketing? Because it's a challenge, and because it's actually a really cool way to do it, because you get to really think about how do you connect with people. Okay, we can all buy ads. Everyone can take a huge ad budget, go out and buy ads, watch what it does, but there's no relationships that are being built there. So I was very, very fortunate for a number of reasons. Okay, let's talk a little bit about social just for a minute. Social, you guys have all heard of social marketing and social media, right? Everybody, anybody here on Facebook? Raise your hands if you're on Facebook. Okay, great. So Facebook is really scaled to the point where most of our population is involved with it. How many of you guys use Twitter? Okay, not a bad number. How many of you guys actually really are on Twitter, not just sign up for an account, but go there every day, look at it, maybe send a tweet or two? Okay, more limited. So if I use any terminology you guys aren't familiar with, please feel free to raise your hand or ask a question or anything like that. But what happened was these platforms started scaling in about 2008. And what I mean by scaling is that enough people started coming on them that it made it something that we all wanted to be at. If any of you guys went to Facebook back in 2007, you went on there, you looked, maybe you saw a friend or two, you might not have gone on because it's like walking into an empty bar. There wasn't anybody there to really pull you in and feel like you were comfortable. And then as more people came on and more people came on, just like a party, as it gets bigger, it keeps going. Now, anybody in this room who goes onto Facebook, guaranteed you're going to find dozens of people you know, and you're going to feel comfortable because you can immediately connect. You don't have to worry about being that lone person in the room, standing by themselves. So here I am, I joined this company, they've got a database of 600,000 or 700,000 people that women, of course, they were selling cosmetics. So here's another point. Social media, everybody, guys, forget it, it's about women. Social media is not about guys. We do not communicate that way. We talk at each other. I'm never going to convince you about my opinion. You're probably not going to convince me about yours. We're barely going to hear each other when we talk at each other. Women do not communicate that way. Women share, they listen, they reach out, they want opinions. When you're a guy, when you buy something, what do? I don't know about you guys, but me, I have one guy I ask if I need advice. I've got my computer guy, I've got my car guy, I might have a guy ask about clothing, it could be a woman, but it's usually just one. Okay? Women want opinions from more people now. We're not smart enough. I can't put all that information together. I don't want to get confused by 10 people's opinions. So here I was at this company that sold cosmetics. So obviously our market was women, so it was a great place for me to be. Second of all, cosmetics is an aspirational product. Women love cosmetics. All you women in the room know this. Most of you men probably see the bills that come through on your credit cards. You know what people spend on this stuff. And what I learned very quickly was I joined this company. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with eyeslippsface.com, but the products were dollar cosmetics. But it was high quality, and we were competing with the prestige brands. But being new to this business, the first thing I did was start sending the products to people I know, just to see what they thought about it. And what I learned very, very quickly was no matter who I sent a box of cosmetics to, whether it was an 18-year-old girl or a 70-year-old woman, whether they were wealthy or not, invariably the email I got back the next morning was, "Thank you so much, I was up all night playing with my new stuff," right? You guys play with cosmetics, right? You look, you make things, you take pictures, you share it, you show your girlfriends. That's what happens. So I realized, and this is a big part of what social's about, because you listen to people. I heard what was going on, and I saw an opportunity, and I was at a small company that loved when I said, I'm not spending a lot of money on media, so they let me try just about anything I wanted. So I'm just trying to give you a little background of where I got my experience. I was at a company that, number one, dealt with women, number two, sold a product that women love, and number three, I had no corporate legal team telling me all the things I couldn't do, and I could try things. So I jumped into this space with both feet. I've always been a networker by nature. I've always believed in the power of relationships. Is there anybody in this room that doesn't believe that relationships have tremendous value? No hands, right? Because you've heard the expression all the time, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Okay, but it goes beyond that. It's people that can help you with things. It's a community, like we have right here, where people are standing up and trying to help people build their businesses, better themselves, and that's what social presents you. So I was working with this company, and even with a company like this, I still had to come in and be able to say to them, this is what we're getting out of what we're doing, because everything's about measurement, right? Everybody wants to know, how does it increase the bottom line? Where's the ROI? And that's when I came up with return on relationship, which I used versus return on investment. And my theory is that return on relationship will lead to ROI because of increased awareness, because of loyalty, because of trust. And all these things are what make you guys buy more product or deal more with anybody that you're doing in business. So here's a really important thing we talk about. All you guys, again, if you're familiar with Facebook, and I think everybody in here basically raised their hands, they call it a friend on Facebook, right? Somebody that you get attached to. Now here's an amazing marketing job. Facebook owns the word friend. I mean, think about that. Friend doesn't have the value it used to have. And I talk a lot about how this year, 2012, for me, is the year of taking the word friend back and giving it value again. Because what has a friend become? A friend has become just clicking a button. He's my friend. I don't know about you guys, when I first started seeing this, you guys all have kids, right? And my daughters would say, you know, yeah, I got 500 friends. Really, how many of these people do you know? What is your definition of a friend? Because a lot of our kids are being led to believe that a friend is just somebody that you click on a button or you have on a page. And the sad part is that a lot of us are starting to act the same way. And I can tell you right now that companies, from the biggest to the smallest, have started acting that way. They think that once someone comes to their page and clicks another word, like, What does like become to mean? When you hear the word like, you don't even think about liking anybody anymore. You think about Facebook. I mean, amazing marketing job. I want us to own those words again. And what I talk about is that fans, friends, followers, yes, they're an audience, but more importantly, they're an asset. And they're an asset if you build an emotional connection. And how do you build emotional connection? As you get to know people. You ask them questions. You look them in the eye when you're talking to them. So you might say to me, how do you do that digitally? I call it looking in the eye digitally. And it's something that I stress and I try to teach companies and individuals how to do. Now first, is the most important thing is, without relevance, you've got nothing, no loyalty. And it doesn't lead to anything for you. So sure, you can have someone come to your page and show them great movies. But if you're not about movies or your business is not about that, it doesn't mean anything to them. So really, really important is you need it to be relevant. If I came in here tonight and I talked about ice cream flavors or some new product I was developing that had nothing to do with what you guys wanted to learn, everybody would turn it off and stop listening. It's about relevancy. And relevancy can be a one-on-one thing. It can be different for every audience, and you have to get to understand it. So you hear about this all the time. Go on Facebook, put it on your business, you'll get in touch with thousands of people, right? It's free. Well, first of all, it's not free. Okay? It takes an incredible amount of time to build a strong presence for yourself personally or for your business. Because if you do it right, again, you're not just shaking a hand and then moving on to the next person and shaking another hand, and then you don't even know their name. What you're doing is you're thinking about it. You're looking at them. When I'm online, and again, I teach this to companies every day. When you have people on your page, look at who they are, read their profiles, find out what their names are, reply to them by name. First of all, this will set you apart because 99% of the people are not doing it. Most of you guys will walk out of this room. You'll forget everything I said to you, and you'll move on and just continue doing things the way you are. How many people do that in college? You go, you pay for courses, even students that go to school at night. They go into these things, they're there to learn, and they walk out of the room and they forget everything they're taught. Or you go to an event that's a networking event. You're going there to meet people. You take cards. What do you do with those cards when you get home? Again, 9 out of 10 people, those cards go in a box. I'll tell you what I do with cards. And I'll do the same if I get cards from you guys tonight. I'll be happy to give you mine. I interact. I engage. At the very, very least, I will connect with you on various social platforms. I will add you to my database. And then in my database, which we all have, we all have iPhones and Blackberries and some other way that we keep track of people we know, I'll put notes in there. I'll put that I met you at this event on this night. If we had a conversation, I'll try to make a couple of notes about what we said. If you email me, I'll cut and paste that email and put it into the description in the notes. So when I bump into you at the next event, and you say, Ted, don't you remember me? I met you in Brooklyn when you spoke at the event, and I can actually look in my database. You might not even say that. You just might say, because I get this a lot, hi Ted, do you remember me? Okay, how many of you guys get that, right? Or people that don't even introduce themselves, they put you on the test. Well, first of all, I'm very upfront and honest. I'll say, no, I don't. Because that's authentic. Because I want to be real. Because what happens is a lot of people say, sure, I know you. And then you can see the disc turning, they're trying to figure it out. They're stepping aside and looking into their BlackBerry, into their iPhone, they're trying to figure something out. And you know it. So be upfront, be honest. And I say this to companies all the time. It's the same thing. You guys have heard about these events where companies have these things that happen. They post something on Facebook, there's an uproar, and all of a sudden they start deleting comments. You can't do that. You can't do that as an individual. You can't do that as a company. If somebody criticizes you, stand up and have a conversation about that criticism. But if you connect with thousands, but you don't do it one by one, you're not going to get value. Now you might say, how do I do that one by one? It's mind-boggling. I can't keep up with it. Well, think about it. You can keep up with it a lot better than you could before. You've got a platform. You've got the ability to sit on your couch, at your desk, in your car, wherever it is, and communicate with these people. Now what I'm going to do a little bit as we're going to get through this, I'm going to give you guys some direct tips on how to do things within your Facebook page, in your Twitter presence, in different things you do, if you guys are interested. If you're not, just tell me and we'll do something else. And I'll tell you how you can make those connections. But remember, a lot of it is about who people think you are and what your reputation is. Remember, a brand is what you are. A reputation is what people remember. And it's amazing what you can do with reputation. Reputation is about how you carry yourself, whether you look at people in the eye when you talk to them, whether you answer them by name, whether they email you and you get back to them. Even if you say, I really don't have time now. I do this all the time. I speak at conferences all over the country. I give out my email address. I give out my Twitter handle. People connect with me all the time. And I say to them, I will be responsive to you. My personal brand is responsiveness. But I will be very upfront with them if I don't have time. And then I push it back on them because most of them won't follow up. So I get someone that gets in touch with me, and they send me an email. I say, listen, I don't have time this week. Please email me back. Already a dissatisfied customer. And what I do is I say to them, remind me next week, because I don't have time this week. Now, 9 out of 10 times they will not remind me next week because they're not that dedicated. It's not that important to them. But I answered them. I replied. I put them off for another time. I honestly knew they probably wouldn't get back to me. It's part of the way I'll test people or put them off if they want me to help them with something. People are always asking me for advice, and I want the ones that really want the advice, that are hungry for it, that are willing, again, if I have, and this is not just an exercise. If I have the time, I'll do it right then and there. It's just 9 out of 10 times I don't. The mistake people make is you go on Facebook, whether you're a company or an individual, and you say, I'm on Facebook. I have lots of friends there. The platform is a facilitator. It's not the relationship itself. You guys still have to do the work. It's, again, just like building a business, cold calling, following up, filling a funnel with prospects, selling them later, going to a party, meeting somebody. I mean, how many of you guys walk into a party and just walk right up to someone and start selling them something? You don't. You go in, you talk about something, you build a relationship, you talk about your life. It's very, very important to remember that these platforms are not relationships. And if you don't interact with people, if you don't comment on their pages, and again, you don't have to, by the way. You guys can be lurkers. You guys can watch what's going on, and the majority of people on social are watching. So you might hear all the time, well, there's 250 million people on Twitter, but there's only 40 million people that are active. The rest of them are a waste. Or if someone hasn't been active on the platform for 90 days, 120 days, stop following them, don't bother with them, they're not doing anything. Don't believe that. Because most people are just people that listen. Go to a cocktail party, look at the room, step back, and you'll see that probably out of the 200 people in that room, maybe 30 of them are really speaking. The rest have people gathered around them, and they're listening. Some of those people will never speak the entire time they're there at any party they go to. Does that make them not valuable? Of course they're valuable. There's still people that they're actually, to me, they're more valuable than the people doing the talking. Because they're the ones who are listening. They're really the ones that I want in my audience. They're the ones I want hearing me. Because they're not there with their own agenda. They're there to hear, to learn, to find out what your products, what your brand, what you're doing. And again, this goes for Dove. You guys all know Dove, the product, the soaps and all the different things. Do you know they have 250 people that manage their Facebook page? Because they've got different countries around the world. They operate it 24/7 because anybody that visits that page and makes a comment, they want them engaged. They want them to know that somebody's listening and somebody's talking to them. And they're not selling product there. They're selling image, they're selling brand, they're selling relationships. Now, I'm going to tell you great stories, just to give you something that really hits home for the way a brand works. All you guys are familiar with JetBlue, right? Everybody goes to Florida at some point or another, so you all know JetBlue. Well, JetBlue, as you might have heard about, I think it was 2008, 2009, they had some real problems with planes getting stuck on the ground. Everybody hear about that? You heard about the hours their planes were sitting there? Well, have you ever seen a JetBlue advertisement? Probably not. Not a TV commercial, not a radio commercial. They don't do that. They jumped into social in a very, very big way. And they started listening and communicating. And remember how tough their job is. There are very few people tweeting about JetBlue or putting Facebook posts telling them how great they are. They're bitching about their luggage, about the flight taking off late, about anything but good things. But they made a commitment to be very active. So I'm on a plane to Austin, Texas in 2009. Anybody in this room here at a conference called South by Southwest? Yeah. Well, it's the biggest interactive conference in the world. It takes place in Austin. So I'm on a flight going there, and I'm one of the unfortunate guys that gets stuck on one of the JetBlue flights that's stuck on the runway. It wasn't as bad as some of them. It was about 3 hours. After about 2 hours, even 2.5 hours, I had enough. I whipped out my laptop, and I started tweeting. And I knew what JetBlue's handle was, and the way I usually do it, because I'm in the business and because just I'm a nice guy, and I am, and I try to be good to people, I try to give them the opportunity. It's like, oh, look, JetBlue, I'm a big fan, love you guys, but what is going on today? I'm stuck on the runway. Within 1 minute, I had a reply. Now remember, this is in public view. If someone else is on Twitter, and now it's all, you Google it, it'll come up, all these things. And they start communicating with me. And they start out very simply, the way almost a customer service situation starts, when the first thing they want to do is just try to get you off their back. So they say, well, we're really sorry you're having a bad time, we hope it gets better. And I said, well, I've been here for 2 hours, it's not getting better, nobody's giving us answers. So they started talking to me. And within a few minutes I found out that our bags were on the New Orleans flight, and the New Orleans bags were on our flight. Okay? I'm the first guy to know this. They made me into a hero, first of all. I'm telling everybody in the plane what's going on. Nobody knows the flight attendants aren't telling us. Now, being a guy that knows nothing about the airline industry, what do you think I said? So, get some guys to get the bags and bring them over here. Get some other guys to bring the ones over there, and let's take the plane off. I'm telling them how to run their business. So I'm not exactly the guy they want to be communicating with. But what they did was they took the time, via Twitter, 140 characters, to explain to me it's not that simple. There are union issues, there are gay issues, there are things you can't do on the tarmac, et cetera, et cetera. And finally I said, okay, I got it. I said, so what can you do for us? I said, we're a bunch of people, we're stuck on a plane, we're all missing our parties in Austin. And I figured I'd have a little fun here. I said, how about free drinks for everybody? So the first reply back I get is FAA rules and what they can and can't do, because we're still on the ground. And I keep going back, well, come on, how about some drinks? We want to have a party. And this thing went back and forth for about 5 or 6 tweets. And finally, guys, they come back and they say to me, how about free movies for everybody once you take off? And I'm like, deal. Great. And they say, we'll probably be taking off in about 20 minutes. So I turn around, I tell everybody on the plane, everyone's clapping for me. We take off, we get our free movies. JetBlue doesn't have Wi-Fi yet. Didn't then, still doesn't now, supposedly the end of this year. First thing I do when I land, again, being a social media guy, is I whip out my BlackBerry at the time, and I am on iPhone now. And I tweet out, kudos to JetBlue. They couldn't solve my problem, but they engaged me. I move on. I'm at the conference 2 months later. I'm at a conference called the CMO Club Summit, Chief Marketing Officers. I'm on a panel. I'm speaking in a room of 150 Chief Marketing Officers from companies as big as Nestle down to small little startups. And who am I on the panel with, which I didn't really know when I got there, because I'm friends with the guy who runs the conference. I'm on a panel with Morgan Johnson, the head of communications, manager of communications for JetBlue, Jamie Punishell from Citibank, and it's being run by a guy named Jeff Roars, who runs Exact Target, which is an email company. But the subject of the panel was about how here is this guy marketing for e.l.f. Cosmetics, well that's fun, and here are 2 guys that all they get is complaints. You know, at the time, Citibank was, ratcheting up all those credit card fees. Everything was going crazy. They're not getting fun things. So we're in the middle of this panel. We got 2 minutes to speak to each other. Of course, I didn't walk up and say, hi, I'm Ted Rubin. I'm that joke that was on the plane. And I look over at Morgan Johnson when we're discussing the fact of how they're handling people that are complaining and how they're making them walk away feeling good. And I just naturally said, I got to give you guys kudos. And all of a sudden, he just stops talking. He starts looking at me, shaking his finger. I said, oh my God, you're the drinks guy. You're the guy. You're at Ted Rubin. I'm like, yeah, look, it's right up over there. And I look at him now. I'm looking at him the same way, going, oh my God, how do you know? Why? Because JetBlue has an escalation policy. Same way they do in customer service departments, where they recognize that when somebody is in the social sphere, and they're complaining, they want to know who they are, what they're about, and then make sure there's somebody communicating with them, so it's not just some intern or some low-level customer service person who can answer those questions in the way they want them answered. So I don't know if you guys know what cloud scores are. It's a way to measure your online influence, but JetBlue has a dashboard where they track this stuff. JetBlue knows what you paid for your plane flight. So they know what you're doing, how committed you are, whether you're a frequent flyer with them. And then it gets escalated to somebody that can make that communication. So now this is back in 2009. I'm sitting there. I have built this very large presence for e.l.f. Cosmetics against the likes of Lancome, Estee Lauder, Sephora, because we jumped in before a lot of them were really able to do what they wanted to do there. And I was absolutely flabbergasted that I was communicating with the head of communications. So just to take the story one step further, JetBlue talked about how committed they are, the amount of employees they have today now, 3 years later, they have triple the size of that department. They monitor everything that's being said about them online. And now let's talk about what the value is, because a lot of you guys have probably heard, what is the return on investment for social marketing or social media? So we've got relationships. How do we track it? We certainly know intuitively if someone trusts us, if someone's loyal and keeps coming back and buying, we're going to make more money. But how do we measure? How do we know they came to us because of that? Maybe it was everything else we were doing. And this is a very hard thing to do, just like it's hard to measure the reaction to a TV commercial or other types of branding. But now let's talk about social and what you can do. Think about the insurance. Who in this room has insurance? Some form of insurance, right? Everybody has health insurance, probably car insurance, life insurance, who knows what other kind of insurance. Most of us will go to our graves, thank God, never exercising that insurance. None of us truly got any health insurance. We pay thousands of dollars a year. We spend much less because we're doing it just in case something happens. Well, I will tell you that in the business world, guaranteed something will happen. Whether it's the launch of a new product, a crisis with an ingredient, a bad reaction to a campaign you're running, flights that get stuck on the ground. So JetBlue spends 3 years building this social credibility. I call it social cred. And I actually say that social cred is insurance for the day you're going to need it. That, again, that day could be trying to find out what's the best way to launch a product, or in JetBlue's case, how many of you guys heard they had a plane stuck on the ground again last fall up in Hartford at Bradley International Airport. They had a plane that got redirected, got stuck on the ground for 9 hours. It got so bad that the pilots were contacting the tower and saying, we have no more bathroom room, we have no food, we're desperate here and our own airline can't help us. You have to help us. Did anybody hear about this blowing up in social media? Not really. Because what happened was JetBlue had to come back and apparently the Department of Transportation put a gag order on them. To this day, I'm not sure what happened there. It's probably something that none of us really want to know about. But for some reason, they could not talk about why that flight got stuck on the runway and why it was diverted there. Now, if they didn't have this credibility, if they hadn't been authentic and transparent and building these relationships, we all know what would have happened. People would have gone crazy. JetBlue saying, we can't answer you. We're sorry it happened. We'll try to make it up to you, but we don't have answers. But this went away within a day because they had built up the credibility that they were authentic and transparent and they respond to people. And this came back to them in immeasurable dollars of what the return on investment was. So that goes beyond, again, the trust, the loyalty, the awareness, the brand awareness, the amplification of your message. Another great thing is lessening of customer service calls. Because JetBlue's policy and what they believe is one person's complaining, the odds are there are another 149 people that have the exact same complaint. So if you answer it in a public forum, whether you give the answer they want or whatever, but you engage them. I mean, how many people in this room just want to be heard when they speak? Right? I mean, how many women in this room would just like if their husband would listen to them when they came home? Right? I mean, and really hear them. Not the eyes staring with other thoughts going on in the back of the head or looking past them onto ESPN to see what the scores are, but really engage and communicate and answer the questions with a thought-out answer. That's what we all want from a brand. And that's what JetBlue gets. And there are a few other brands, but we won't go into each one. It's about trust. And trust is built based on interaction, consistency, and being true to your word, authentic and genuine. So how do you build relationships? First of all, you listen. How many brands up until recently bothered listening to their customers? They didn't really have to. Now it's gotten to the point where they don't really have a choice because if they're not doing it, somebody else is. And if that somebody else is and you're not, then you're at a disadvantage. But also listening gets you incredible market intelligence. And this is for you guys individually. Just think of it as a person. If you listen to people out there, if you hear what they have to say, if you listen to their criticisms are great. There's nothing better than a critic for a brand, or even an individual. Haters hate, and we don't want to pay attention to that. But critics usually are voicing something that's a valid concern, and usually more than one person will have that same criticism. Make it about them. Think about when you're building a business, the same way you're building a friendship. If it's all about you, that friendship's not a true friendship. It's not going to go anywhere, whether that's family or anybody. If you make it about them, everybody wants to hear about it. Everybody wants to hear, everybody wants you to listen to what their issues are. Ask, how can I serve you? How many of you guys have heard that when you walk into a business lately? I walked into a retail store recently, and I couldn't believe it. That immediately, they didn't come up and say, "What are you looking for? How can I help you?" And the feeling I got was that they really meant it. And they listened. I had a wonderful retail experience recently. I'm the dad of teenage daughters, divorced dad of teenage daughters. We're not going to really go there because I think some of you guys know what that's like. They're 15 and 17. I'm lucky if they pay attention to much of what I said. It was my daughter's birthday. I wanted to buy her a gift. I went into one jewelry store, and all the woman did was follow us around, shove stuff in front of us, ignore the fact that my daughter was uncomfortable and didn't know what to say, and we were out of that store within 10 minutes. We walk into another store, and the woman immediately recognizes my daughter and says, "I just want to look around." So she let her go. And gradually she'd see what she's looking at, and she'd use that market intelligence by seeing what was catching my daughter's eye to show her something. She came over, had a brief, quick conversation with me when my daughter wasn't really paying attention, so Dad wasn't saying anything too much to embarrass her. But she understood how to build, she built a relationship with me, and she built a relationship with my daughter. I walked out of there a really happy dad. I had that moment that we all live for with our kids once they're not little anymore and they're teens. And my daughter got something that she really loved because she had somebody that listened to her. And not only will I go back there, not that I buy that much jewelry, thank God, but I will go back there next time for my daughters, and I've been doing nothing but telling people about it. Now we all have influence. Everybody in this room has influence. Doesn't matter if you have a big social presence or not. You've got friends, you've got relatives, you've got the person sitting next to you. And we all love to talk about things that we love. Good experiences we had. This all translated. And what these platforms allow us to do now is that they allow us to get it out in a much more rapid fashion and to more people. It's called the social graph. But think of it, all you guys, you probably remember the old Doublemint commercial? She told two friends, and she told two friends, and she told two friends, and then next thing you know, the screen is filled up with people and so on. That's, just think of this very simply, that's social media. Because even if you only have 3 friends, they have friends, and they have friends, and anybody you talk to has the ability to pass that along. And believe it or not, and a lot of you guys might think different, good news travels faster. Happiness moves much quicker through the social sphere than negative. It's a common misbelief that people think that negative stuff is what people like to share. They don't. How many of you guys have a friend that's a complainer? Do you want to hear their shit anymore? Excuse me. Do you want to hear all that stuff anymore? Do you stop listening when you know every time they call, you talk to them, all they do is complain? No. You want to be with people that have something good to say. You want good advice. You want something that's good to do. You want to feel good. Well, it's the same thing with any of this, and social helps you expand that. And by the way, if you're not doing it, people will be doing it for you without you participating. So if you're in the business, I don't care if it's the Dunkin' Donuts on the corner or a small dry cleaner, if you're not communicating about yourself, people will be. People will be talking about you. So why not be a part of that conversation? Aim for ongoing engagement. This goes back to the whole thing about friending and then just letting it go. Once you make those connections, build them, grow them. The same way as when you walk into a room or you walk into a job and you see someone that you want to connect with, and what do? You bring them a donut the next day, you sit down when they're sitting for lunch. It's the same thing in the social sphere. You guys got to remember, this is not that confusing. It's really very simple. It's basic tenets of building friendships. And know the people in your audience. Ask them questions. Don't be afraid of their answers. You know what doesn't work for a social strategy? It's simple. Not being social. Okay? Now let me talk a little bit about it. By the way, anybody have any questions?
I was trying to figure out on Twitter, there's a little hashtag, and somehow that's supposed to communicate with people, and I'm not sure how that works.
Does everybody here know what a hashtag is? Yes. In Twitter? Okay. Well,
can you illustrate?
Unfortunately, I don't have a board here, but I'm going to tell it to you very simply. You know what the number sign looks like? That's called a hashtag. It's called a hash. The way it works is that on Twitter, because there's all these conversations going on in such rapid fire progression, that if you tag them with something, so people can follow them, then it gets a subject that people can look at and discuss. So what they do is they come up with a hashtag with a word, something they think people, it could be hashtag marketing. If you search that, either in Google or better in Twitter, it will bring you up all the communications people have made. So think about conversations. If you could tag every conversation in this room, everybody that talked about marketing will come up in that thing, as long as they're using that tag. So the way people use it online, in Twitter, is two ways. Either they want to build a brand for themselves. For instance, I use a hashtag RONR, for return on relationship. So it's taken me a long time, because people always thought it was Ron R or something like that, or they didn't know what it was. But gradually people know that when they want to see tweets about building relationships, about marketing, about social media, they know if they go to that hashtag, if they search it, it will come up with all those tweets in one column. So you can read them one after the other, instead of just searching through the Twitter feed. The other way it's used is to have an ongoing conversation. So if we wanted in this room for everybody here to be able to communicate about one topic after we left here, let's say we said it from 10 to 11 o'clock tonight, we're all going to talk about, how amazing Ted was in front of this audience and what great information he gave us. Then you could hashtag it. It could be hashtag, and you try to come up with something unique. Because what you do is, just like that, you search it first. Because if everybody's using, there's a thing called the TED conferences. I'd like to think it has something to do with me. Nothing. But if you use that hashtag, you're going to find it's not good. Or if you use hashtag marketing, you're going to see there's lots of people that use that. But let's just say you make up some letters, or you say hashtag Brooklyn Tonight. Then all the people that are discussing it can see each other's tweets without following them on Twitter. Does that make sense? Did I explain that? It's hard without being able to show you guys online.
I have a little idea, because I played with it, didn't fully understand it, but I have one or two other questions in that area. One is, if I'm watching a Twitter feed, there's so much going on, and the same thing on my wall. I mean, I don't have that many friends, but I can't keep up with everything that's going on my wall, and there's a lot of things going on.
Okay, the recommendation.
Yes.
Use your wall to make serendipitous discoveries. Meaning that, read all the tweets that are coming down, so you might happen to catch something that's really of interest, or somebody new, or somebody that says something interesting. But if you're interested in a topic, or there's something specific you want to do, then use those columns where you can search. It doesn't have to be a hashtag. It can be a subject. There's certain people you want to follow that you think are important. You can put them into what's called a list. Have you seen the button where it says create a list?
I don't remember.
Okay, well, you can set up lists for different topics. So if there's guys that speak about customer service all the time, and you want to hear their great tips on customer service, then you can put them into a list, and then you'll only see their tweets when you go to that list. So you don't have to see the masses of other ones that you're following. For instance, I have 70,000 followers. Okay, and I have a policy, I follow back everybody that follows me. So I'm following 70-some-odd thousand people. I can't read that feed. I do that because I'm doing that from the point where I want as big an audience, as many followers, as many people I can influence following me. The people whose tweets I'm really interested in, I segment them into lists. It can be about topic, it can be about time of day, it can be about anything that you want to do in that respect. But if you try to just follow that feed and that's how you're going to absorb your content, you're not going to accomplish anything. You're going to get dizzy.
Okay. And how about the wall on Facebook? Same kind of situation. How do I break
Well,
that?
the wall on Facebook's a little bit easier because it's more static than Twitter is.
Right.
But in that respect, it's the same thing. You want to go check out what I do is I make a list of the people that I'm really interested in. They could be people it changes every month, or it can be a certain amount of people that are regular. And what I do, for me personally, and this is a very personal thing, how you absorb content. It goes to how you read a magazine, or how some of us watch TV, listen to the radio, read books, and our kids forget about everything they do at one time. It's all about what's good for you. So what I do is I have certain people, and I keep lists of people whose pages I want to go to, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, any of those kind of things.
Great. Thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. One second.
This is more of a technical question. I'm looking at your Twitter right now, and how do you link two Twitter accounts? Like I see RONR and Ted Rubin, like when you reply, it replies to both.
It doesn't have both of us. They're both in the tweet.
It's even when it's the word that's not in the tweet, it's automatically.
Is it the hashtag RNR or is it the @RNR?
It's the, I think it's the @.
If it is, then you've got something really interesting going on there.
Yeah.
They're not linked together. I don't know how to do that.
Okay.
I will also let you guys know before any other questions come, and you're welcome to ask anything. I'm a marketer. I'm a relationship guy, I'm not a technology guy.
Okay.
You know, very, very, very little, like, you know, we just
I
had
found
this
that very
conversation.
interesting. I saw that
That's
before.
not my thing.
That's something I want to do on mine, you know.
Okay.
Yeah. You might have covered this, and I just might have glossed over it accidentally. How do you make people aware of you in the first place? Because you...
Great question. And it's actually something I wanted to cover, so I'm glad you asked it. Okay. You're sitting in this room, you say, wow, I'd really like to be involved in this social sphere. I don't have the next 3 hours, so I'm going to, and Twitter happens to be my platform of choice. I have a YouTube channel, I have Facebook, I'm on Pinterest now, but Twitter is where I do most of my communicating. So I'll give you some pointers on how to build a Twitter following. The beauty of Twitter, one of the things I love about it is it's the only platform where it's 100% fully acceptable to follow people in order to get them to follow you back. In other words, to go out and aggressively build a following on Twitter is something that is expected. Now, I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that. I'm going to tell you how to get around some of the things that Twitter does to prevent bots. Those are automatic mechanisms that allow people to follow people without really doing it. So there's some things that they have in place, algorithms that stop you from doing certain things. But when you start, the first thing you have to do is pick out a handle. Your handle is important. It's what people see first. It's like the name of your business. It might be the same as the name of your business if you have a business. It might be something different. Personally, my belief, if you're an individual and you're doing it for your own personal brand, I would suggest using your name, if you can. Because again, it's about your brand. I want people to know Ted Rubin. I don't want them to know a name, a name of some company I might have started that might change. For the company itself, I'm going to use that name. So first you have to pick a name. It can't be more than 15 characters. That's the maximum they allow. The shorter, the better. Because remember, Twitter only allows 140 characters in the tweet, and when somebody's tweeting, those characters of the name are part of that. Okay? Next, you want to go in, you want to fill out the Twitter page where it has the bio. This is really important. Now, this is all my opinion. I'm not a guru, I'm not an expert. What I've done is I've done this for brands, I've done this for myself, I've done it over and over again, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've experimented and I've learned. So I'm just giving you the benefit of my learning, not what is the only way to do it. Someone else might tell you, and other people have different opinions. But what's really important for me is what you put in that thing that someone initially sees when they check you out. That's your first chance. That's the cover of the book. People spend, it's your initial branding. So what people see, it's why we all look in the mirror before we go out. We want to know what people see. So now let's think about that. You want to try to get across something, you have very, very few characters to do that in because they limit you how much you can put in your bio. My personal little thing that I like to do, it's mine, I'm probably the only guy that does it, I use quotes. And I try to pick a quote for any Twitter handle I establish. And it's not, I don't do it at all of them when it's appropriate. It's representative of who that person or that brand is or who I am. So my quote is, life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning to dance in the rain. Because I've got a lot of challenges in my life, and I've learned that if I wait for everything to be perfect, it's never going to happen. So I'm out there dancing all the time. And I've become known for that quote. I didn't write it, somebody else's quote. But it's something that I truly, it's really authentic, because I do my best every day to live my life by that quote. So I use that. I also own a handle called @parenting, P-A-R-E-N-T-N-G. I have another quote there that has to do with children and parenting and that relationship between a parent and child.
How many handles can you have?
You can have an unlimited amount of handles. You don't have to pay for them. All you have to do is land grab them. A handle is what you're called by. So @Ted Rubin is my handle, or the name of your company. It could be, at Elf we had Eyes, Lips, Face as one handle, and we had Ask Elf as another handle. I mean, it can be anything. You can be as creative or not creative as you want. But now you're filling out your bio. If nothing else, just try to make it something. Don't have it be, hi, I'm a social marketer and I really like to talk to people and I work really hard. Because it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. So whatever you put there, try to make it something that's catchy and brief and something that gets across a message. The reason I like a quote is much deeper than just a few words. It gets a lot across and it gives people the opportunity to think. Who is this guy? Wow, that's a really cool quote. What is he really all about? The next thing is you have a place for a URL. That's a website handle. So you want to have something there where you want people to go when they want to check you out. So either you have your own website, or you can direct them to your Facebook page, where you might have a lot more information about who you are, or it might be your business, whatever that is you want to send them. I have a blog, tedrubin.com. I write about marketing, about social marketing. I have a divorced dad section. I'm a dad blogger. I write about being a dad and what's important to me and those things. And I do that all in the same place, because another belief of mine is that if I show someone who I am, people are going to be that much more apt to want to relate to me. They see I'm a real person. I'm writing about real issues. I'm writing from my heart. I'm writing about things that are really important to me, and to me that draws them in. And it gives me the opportunity to have that relationship. So now the next thing is, which is a little bit more complicated, it might not be for some of you, but you also have this real estate around the page that's not the official part of the Twitter bio that you're filling out. You need Photoshop. I've never done it myself. I always have people do it for me. But you have the ability that you have this rules that you can do more around. You can add photos. And I can tell you that when I added a photo, much bigger photo of myself, it helped me when I went to conference. People recognized me much more than that little tiny picture. And they knew who I was, and I had people walking up to me saying hello. But also in there, you can put more about what you do, more about your background. It gives you more space, like a Facebook profile or a LinkedIn profile. And again, this is what people will look at. You're going to hear that 80% of the people on Twitter do not use Twitter to tweet. They use TweetDeck. They use tools, other tools to tweet. One of them is called TweetDeck. If you really want to get into this, check it out. Just like it sounds, TweetDeck. There's Hootsuite. There's Seismic. And you'll hear, again, you don't have to write all this down. You'll hear that other people on there. But everybody who wants to know who you are will go to your Twitter page. I do it every single day. So use that real estate.
A moment ago was the first time you mentioned LinkedIn. Can you just talk a little bit about that and use it for your business?
Sure. Let me just finish with the tips about Twitter, and then I'll jump into that for a second. Now, because I know that you get how you build your account. So now you want to build your account, you decide what is your brand. What do you want to talk about? Do you just want to be a guy that talks about a million things? Do you want to focus on one thing? What's important to you? And then search and find other people on Twitter who have a similar brand to you. If you want to talk about social marketing, maybe you go check out Ted Rubin and see who's following him. If you want to talk about cosmetics, you might go to Sephora or Estee Lauder or Elf Cosmetics. And my recommendation is start following the people that are following them. Because those are people that have expressed an interest in what you want to be discussing or talking about. And there's unlimited amounts of people like this. You know, you find a few, and then you continue on, and you find some others, and you start following those people. My next piece of advice is do not look at their profiles while you're following them. Do not dig in deep. Just follow, 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 follow. You will never get anything accomplished if you try to look at all these people. You'll get to know those things as people start following you back, as they start tweeting with you. Right now, your first goal is to build that initial audience so you can start engaging. Okay? Just one last thing. You're going to hit the number 2,000. I know it sounds like a lot, but you will. When you hit 2,000, Twitter is going to cut you off. 2001, you will start hitting that button and you will not be able to follow anybody. Because they have an algorithm in place, because they don't want bots going out there following a few 100,000 people waiting for them to follow back. So what you need to do is, my suggestion is follow back everybody that follows you. Why? Number one, it's commonplace. Someone's following you, you follow them back. You're not Ashton Kutcher. You're not trying to use your ego to say that I have very, very little people I'm following, but everybody wants to follow me. This is all about you building an audience and building your influence. So follow everybody back. The other reason is that other people are going to do exactly what I'm going to tell you to do right now. They're going to unfollow people that don't follow them. So when you hit that 2,000 number, whether you have 100 followers after that, or you've gotten up to 1,500 followers, use a site called Just Unfollow. Just like it sounds. JustUnfollow.com. My suggestion is pay for the upgraded version. I think it's $9.95 for the year, $9.95. Because the free version is just not really worth that much. And it will allow you to see exactly who is not following you back. And then you can unfollow them very, very, very quickly. One after the other in very rapid progression. I would wait 72 hours, even though you can look, if you just want to make it easy, it will let you unfollow the oldest people versus the newest people, but I tend to wait 3 days, give people a chance to follow me back. I assume if they haven't followed me back in 3 days, they're probably not going to. At this point, I don't have to do that anymore, but when I did, or when I built a new handle, which I do all the time, I will then unfollow those people and I will start the same progression again. And I will also watch you unfollow. So keep a little spreadsheet. If you're following one person's followers, see what your uptake is every day. I follow 300 people, 100 people follow me back. That's a nice uptake. Well, I found another, I'm following somebody else that's in the same interest and 200 people follow me back. That's a better one to follow. Spend a little bit more time on that. If you follow followers of somebody where you get no uptake, then you're probably barking up the wrong tree there, or they just don't have valuable followers. A lot of them might just not be active or not be following, and you can stop wasting your time. When you hit 2,000 people that are following you back, the difference is about 10%. Once you get over 1,800, Twitter will let you go beyond 2,000. And then it just continues on in that respect. But now, you got people following you. If you don't give them value, there's nothing worth there. So decide as you're doing this, either before or during, what am I going to put out that's going to make people want to keep communicating with me? There's lots of different choices. If you want to make it easy, you can just put out links of other, if you read a lot and you go to a lot of websites and you see a lot of articles you like, you can just put out great article about marketing, great article about social media, great article about being a divorced dad, and you can just put out content. There are a lot of people that do that. Guy Kawasaki, you guys might have heard of him, he's huge, millions of followers, he's one of the original guys at Apple Computer. Guy's belief is he just throws out links all day long of articles. He does it, he automates it. Not my way of doing things. I'm an original content producer. That's rare. Honestly. You guys write your real thinking, and I don't mean, I'm in the mood for a cup of coffee. And not that you can't do that every once in a while, because I got to tell you, one of the things that starts my engagement late at night is I write about the cocktail I'm having. And all of a sudden, it's like an online cocktail party. I'll say, going to Macallan Cinema Mall tonight. Next thing I know, I've got 40 people tweeting me back what they're drinking. I'm not doing that because I want them to do that. I want to do it because that starts the engagement, just like a cocktail party does. And that can be about anything. You can be talking about being a parent. You can talk about being a mom. You can talk about what you do in your business. Talk about accounting. Whatever it is you talk about, add value. Put something that people are engaged with and think is interesting. And by the way, the beauty of social is you can test something different every day. You can keep throwing those things out there until you find that thing that works. Or maybe you just want to be someone that reads somebody else's tweets, and that's fine too. Go in there and do it that way. Okay, so that's just some of the basics. Let me answer a question about LinkedIn. I'm not a LinkedIn expert, but I use LinkedIn aggressively in my business. So for me, LinkedIn is a professional's place. There's a lot of recruiting going on in LinkedIn. There's a lot of business relationships. There's a lot of sales going on in LinkedIn. The beauty of LinkedIn is it allows you to connect to people down your social line that you're not directly connected to. So you guys are connected, and he's connected to her, and you want to meet her, and you can see everyone he's connected to. But you can't look into most of your friends' iPhones and see who all their friends are. But now you can see not only who's connected to, but you can search by company name. So what's the value of LinkedIn? My opinion is go on LinkedIn, build a profile, start connecting with all the people you know. You do a search, whether you're connected to Facebook, or you're connected to, it'll also connect to your Outlook address book, and it'll dig in there and figure out who you know that's on LinkedIn. My suggestion is start connecting with them.
But LinkedIn also stops you. I mean, one of them, when I tried to go on, they said, you're not in that group.
No, that, again, first thing you do is find the people that you're connected to.
Right.
What LinkedIn will do is if you can't say that it's going to give you a choice of list, either groups that you're in or jobs that you've had. You fill out your profile,
Right.
which gives them information. They need content in order to figure out who you are. So now they see you worked at A, B, C, D company, so you can connect to anybody via that. Also, if you know their email address, which probably if they're in their database, you probably know their email address, all you have to do is throw in their email address, and then they'll allow you to connect with them. What they're not allowing you to do is to reach 3 levels down and just randomly connect to people. But I mean, every event I go to, I'll come home with 200 business cards. I will connect to every single one of those people via LinkedIn.
I've actually tried that. I've had people refuse a connection because I'm at one networking event and I have their email address, but then they say, I don't know this person, I don't remember this person.
If they refuse your connection,
warnings.
there's no real reason to be connected with them because they're not going to be of any use to you in that respect anyway. If someone doesn't want to connect with you on LinkedIn, they're certainly not going to introduce you to their database of people. So this is all about, look, have you guys heard the term permission marketing? That was the term that Seth Godin coined when we were at Yoyodyne. Permission marketing is the basis of all these emails you apply to where you have to subscribe, and if you don't want to be there, you have to unsubscribe, okay? Social is the ultimate in permission marketing. If you don't want to follow somebody, you don't want to hear what they have to say, just stop listening. Just stop following them. So if you try to connect with them via LinkedIn, and they don't want your connection, then move on. And they don't want your connection. It's just like you walk up to someone and try to be their friend, and they don't want to be. But what I do is I try to reach out to many people, and the bigger your network grows, the more people will want to be attached to you.
Yeah, my question relates to all the social, you talk about Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, but in terms of, I guess, a business owner, small business practitioner, how much time do you need to spend on each of these things? I mean, you really waste your days.
Well, waste is a word that depends on what your goals are. So what you need to do, this is a very personal thing. My opinion is a few things. First of all, everything that we do in life is based on other opportunities we have to be involved in. So if you're involved in business and you're a doctor and you're incredibly busy and you don't have time for this, then this is not something for you. If you're in business and your business is about meeting people or growing or selling more, then there's going to be a trade-off for what it is, whether you do it yourself or you hire someone to do it for you. Again, I don't mean for an individual, more for a brand. But a lot of it has to do also with multitasking. I was telling Rafi that I'm working on a new presentation for a blogger conference where I'm going to be skipping rope while I talk, talking about multitasking and all the things we all have to learn to do at once. So what I've learned to do, and a lot of people have, is I've learned to make a lot of those connections while I'm doing other things. Now again, if what you do takes more concentration, then you can't do that. You have to see what's valuable for you and how much time you're willing to give up. So if you're willing at night when you come home, whether it's if you have kids, you don't have kids, you wait till they go to sleep. I mean, I'll tell you something about mom bloggers. I'm very, very involved. You guys have all heard about the phenomenon of mom bloggers, right? It's really very simple. It's not, these are just women that want to write, and they blog. And most of them don't blog about being moms. They're called mom bloggers because they're moms. They write about fashion, they write about technology, they write about beauty, they write about being moms, they write about a million different things. But what they're doing is they're expressing themselves. And most of them, you want to really deal with mom bloggers, you know when you find them most active? After 11 o'clock at night. Okay, there's two times. Between 7 and 8 o'clock, after everyone's done with dinner and dad's doing some things, the kids doing homework, they jump on and they look. They come in and they check, they make a little contact, and then after 11 o'clock, it's one of the reasons I'm up till 2 in the morning, because I'm up communicating with them all night, because they're up till 2, 3 in the morning. And then there's also a lot of dads that are doing the same thing when the kids go to sleep. So it's all about how you make times for things that are important. If you're a stamp collector, you don't do it while you're at work. If you're an athlete, you might work out, you do it in the morning, you don't stop being a doctor or being a lawyer or anything to do that.
My question also relates to the fact that if you're going to farm it out to somebody who's going to do a little bit of social marketing, but they don't know the ins and outs of your business, or they don't have the technical expertise or something to answer somebody directly about a customer relationship, really, like, you got to roll up the sleeves and actually answer an email, a tweet, a question.
100%. You need to be directly involved in those things, and if you do have somebody do it, you've got to manage them the same way you would manage anybody else. You have to make them understand your business. You have to give them enough content, enough information so they can do it. But this is a much longer story. It's something that we always, I'll be happy to chat with you about it afterwards. I know you have a question, and I know we have to stop.
Question. How do you use a blog to grow your business?
Use a blog to grow your business by getting people to come to hear what you have to write, because they're building a relationship with you. So my suggestion is that writing should be something to do around your business. Again, it depends on what your business is and any value could be added there. But for instance, at ELF, our blog was not about beauty tips. Our blog was about things we knew that the women who were buying our products were interested in. So fun, things going on in New York City, different events, because what does it do? It draws them back. And people come back for content. Content, that you heard the expression, content is king. I like to say engagement is king. Content opens the door. And then how you engage them once they come in the door is what it's all about. So just the last thing is, to me, I believe that relationships are the new currency. Honor them, invest in them, and start measuring ROI. And guys, it's Ted Rubin. Here's my contact info. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. I promise to do my best to answer your questions. And again, if you reach out to me, I promise I'll reach back. Thank you.